Amy, you can please join us at the table. Okay, thank you. You want to stay right where you are.
Where you go in the fall?
So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the, oh my gosh, it's September already, isn't it? September meeting of the Transportation Council Policy Committee meeting. My name is Dennis Doyle. We'll take roll call in a minute. I just wanted to explain how we're able to essentially continue remote meetings versus the state's open meetings law. The Transportation Council is a creation of the federal government. And so I have an opinion from the attorneys at NISDOT that effectively that as a creation of the federal government, we're not subject to state's open meeting law. So we continue to essentially do this hybrid portion. Had we been subject to the state's open meeting law, we would have to move away from that. So we're discussing internally to try to move back to more people attending and doing remote meetings. But I just wanted to explain that in case it how do we continue to operate on this hybrid model. With that, I'll have a roll call.
Sure, I will name off the municipality, voting municipality. If the voting member present could state their name. Ulster County, City of Kingston,
John Schulteis.
Town of Saugerties, Leanne, you're muted. We see you. Good morning.
Leanne Thornton.
Welcome. Town of Ulster,
John Morrow.
New York State Department of Transportation, New York State Thruway Authority. I think that's Nancy Zhu is here. Town of Hurley,
Peter Humphreys here.
Town of Esopus, Town of Marlborough, Town of Shawangum,
John Ball.
Village of New Paltz,
Tim Rogers.
Town of Wawarsing, Town of Kingston, Town of Rochester.
Mike Baden. I see Councilman Tozzolino from Warsing is on remote, so he may be.
We have 10 present. And Councilman Supervisor Hoke had mentioned that you would be here voting, but I did not receive a proxy letter appointing you at this time, so you can, I would recommend perhaps abstaining. We have a quorum, so we're fine.
Thank you, Brian.
Can we do other introductions? Members in the audience?
Thank you, Glenn. So members of the audience and any will you go to anybody on the phone.
Nicole Palmer, New York City Department of Transportation.
Michael Ward. The village of Evansville manager.
Robert Budick, President, Service, King Highland. Everyone's president, Service, East Highland.
Byron Reach, Martin Matthews.
Cheryl Schneider, Riders of Ulster Transit Alliance.
Anyone else on the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Paul Tozzolino from Town of Wawarsing.
Anyone?
Herblitz.
I saw you, Herb. Thank you.
Nancy So from New York State Thruway.
Thank you, Nancy.
Anyone else on the phone? Going once.
Harriet Lewis, New York State DOT main office.
Good morning, Harriet. Okay, thank you. Item number 2 on the agenda, call for citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments? I'll start with those in the room.
I'm here gathering information to, at Laura Pettit's request, to see if we can possibly arrange a study for the Kings Highway corridor. It's been almost 17 years since this corridor has been assessed. We've had a lot of changes out there, a lot more traffic. And I'm formerly a member of the technical committee, and I know it's a point system. I don't know if it's still a point system, but I need the data to back it up. David, thank you for sending me that link, but it tells me only the public has access
Right.
to the railroad. Actually, the accidents happen at the private road.
Yeah, and that
I
was
don't
just,
know how I
sorry.
can get that, so that's why I'm.
I'm
asking
working-
You guys.
I'm working on your request actively. I
Good.
sent that one because it's a very quick, here's what's going on out there
Good,
snapshot.
Good, thank you. I'm
Yep.
just following up.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Anybody else in the room? Any comments for those on the phone? Hearing none, we'll move on. Approval of the April 26, 2022 Policy Committee Meeting Summary. Can I have a motion for discussion purposes, please?
So moved, Mike Baden.
Thank you, Mr. Baden. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Volk. I have a motion and a second. In the room, any opposed? On the phone, any opposed? Any abstentions in the room? Any abstentions on the phone? Thank you. So carried. Item number 4 on the agenda, communications and announcements. Brian?
We have a meeting of the Ulster County Traffic Safety Board scheduled for Monday, October 3rd. Those meetings are held in person in the Ulster County Legislative Chambers at 6 p.m. And that will be a fully in-person meeting. I'd also like to note that at the conclusion of this meeting at roughly 11, we will have, I don't think it's fair to call it a special session. We'll have a separate meeting with local sponsors, some of whom are here today with their consultants to discuss schedules for construction obligation on the tip for federal fiscal years 23 and 24. Other members are welcome to stick around to listen in on those discussions, but please know we will be going into a separate meeting at the conclusion at roughly 11 a.m. I don't have any other communications or announcements at this time.
Any communications and announcements of those members in the room? Any communications and announcements of those folks that are on remote? Hearing none. Moving on, item number 5, new business. Item A, UCTC Resolution 2022-09, apportionment fiscal year 2021 Federal Transit Administration Section 5307-53 formula formula funds in the Mid-Hudson Transportation Management Area. Do I have a motion for discussion purposes?
So moved, Morrow.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow.
Second, Mike Baden.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
The draft one. Right, I'd just like to note there's a small mistake at the top of the resolution. This is labeled as draft. This is not a draft resolution. It is final as written.
Thank you. Any discussion from those in the room? Any discussion from those on remote? Hearing none. Any opposed in the room? Any opposed on remote? Any abstentions in the room? Any abstentions remote? So carried. Thank you. It's like transit work week, isn't it?
There's more next one too.
Item B. Not draft resolution, but UCTC Resolution 2022-10. The portion of the federal fiscal year 2022 Federal Transit Administration Section 5307, 5340 formula funds in the Mid-Hudson Transportation Management Area. This is effectively to 2022. We just did 2021. Is that correct, Brian?
That's correct.
All right. I have a motion for discussion purposes.
Mike Baden.
So I have a motion for Mr. Baden. Mr. Volk. Second for Mr. Volk. I have a motion, a second. Brian, any discussion?
No, as you mentioned, this is the same formula funds generated through the Mid-Hudson Valley Transportation Management Area with a separate federal fiscal year. This is the latest federal fiscal year distribution for 22. And you'll note in attachment 1, the distribution between all the eligible recipients is shown on page 3, attachment 1. Ulster County is designated recipient is scheduled to receive $895,654 through this 5307 funds.
Any discussion for those on the remote? Okay. Any opposed in the room? Any opposed remote? Any abstentions in the room? Any abstentions remote? So carried, thank you. Item C, the not so draft resolution, UCTC Resolution 2022-11. Apportionment of federal fiscal year 2020 Federal Transit Administration, Section 5339 formula funds in the Mid-Hudson Transportation Management Area. Do I have a motion for discussion purposes? Mr. Morrow is second, and Mr. oh boy, Walk is the motion. I have a motion and a second. Thank you. Any discussion, Brian?
Certainly, as Dennis mentioned, this is Transit Week at the UCTC. We're approving quite a few resolutions regarding transit funding. So I'd just like to point out the subtle differences between some of these funding sources. The previous two resolutions were for Section 5307 funds attributable to the Mid-Hudson Valley Transportation Management Area, also known as UZA 89. This is Section 5339 funds. It's a separate federal FTA program of funding. Section 5339 funding is referred to as the Boston Bus Facility Program. These funds are also attributable to UZA 89, federal fiscal year 21, and can only be used for capital projects. You refer to attachment 1 of resolution 22-11. You'll note the distribution shown there. Ulster County is scheduled to receive $440,693 through the formulary. The formula is generated utilizing a number of revenue vehicles or rolling stock vehicles within the fleet, and that's how the calculation is made.
Thank you, Brian. Any discussion in the room?
Just a general question, with the UCTC going free instead of paid, does that impact any funding?
So if I may,
Please.
so two things. One is that it's quote not free. It's user free.
Okay,
And so the county is picking up the costs for rides from the county's budget. The effect because of that is it does not affect the federal funding source.
Okay.
One is that it's difficult to offer quote free fares under FTA guidance, except for special instances. And two is if we did offer free fares, we would have a situation where it would affect some of our funding sources.
so it's continuing being funded, but just from a different source.
That's correct.
Thank you for clarification. I've had people asking, that's why I asked the question.
So I think we've been careful in some of our announcements to make it everyone understand it's user free, it's not.
Thank you.
And I think the county is estimated somewhere between $300,000 to $400,000 is what would be generated generally, and so that's what is going to end up being essentially paid into a separate account working on that. The reason we don't know is there could be an impact in terms of the number of rides because they're now user free.
Okay,
So that's where we're at.
thank you for the explanation.
So we're still on item number C. Any other comments or questions within the room? Any discussion remote? Okay. Any opposed in the room? Any opposed remote? Any abstentions in the room? Any abstentions remote? So carried, thank you. Item D, the not so draft resolution. You're gonna hear that all day long, aren't you?
There's a lot of resolutions.
2022-12, apportionment of federal fiscal year 2022 Federal Transit Administration, section 5339, formula funds in the Mid-Hudson Transportation Management Area. Do I have a motion for discussion purposes?
Mike Baden,
Thank you, Mr. Baden. Do I have a second?
second.
Thank you, Mr.
Morrow.
Morrow. Whoa, that was a senior moment. Thank you. I recognized the voice and I couldn't recognize the name. Thank you, Mr. Morrow. I'll handle discussion on this one. How's that, Brian? This is essentially the federal fiscal year 2022 of the bus and bus facility program, which Brian just discussed previously. I have a motion and a second. Any opposed in the room? Any opposed remote? Any abstentions in the room? Any abstentions remote? So carried. Thank you. Item E. Draft. Not so draft. UCTC Resolution 2022-13, distribution of federal fiscal year 2020 Federal Transit Administration, section 5339, small urbanized area apportionments attributable to the city of Kingston urbanized area, as shown as in attachment 1. Do I have a motion for discussion purposes?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Do I have a second?
Second, Mike Baden.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. I have a motion and a second discussion, Brian.
Certainly. This is the same program. FTA section 5339, bus and bus facilities program. But generated through a separate census urbanized area. These funds are generated by the Kingston urbanized area. And made available to designated recipients of public transit systems in Ulster County. Therefore, Ulster County government and Ulster County Area Transit are the only eligible recipients to receive the funds. For federal fiscal year 2020, the total amount of funding available is $344,295.
Otherwise known as a third of the bus.
Really electric bus. Yes.
I have a motion and a second discussion in the room. Discussion remote. All in favor in the room? I'm sorry, any opposed in the room? Any opposed remote? Any abstentions in the room? Any abstentions remote? So carried. Item F. UCTC Resolution 2022-14, distribution of federal fiscal year 2021 Federal Transit Administration, section 5339, small urbanized areas, apportionments attributable to Kingston urbanized area, as shown in attachment 1. Brian, if you could just give us the number.
$337,010.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for discussion purposes?
So moved. Second.
Mr. Balk and Mr. Morrow as a motion and a second. Any additional discussion in the room? Any additional?
Let's do the total, Brian, on that. You said 337,
Yes.
and you have 369.
Thank you,
No,
Barbara.
no, it's. So if you look on table 1 of resolution 14, I'll get my calculator out just to make sure. There's 2 funding sources that generate the funds. And is there a discrepancy between the resolution says 337 and 10, so the small urbanized area generates 85,735, added with the state amount of 251,275 equals $337,010.
You're saying now that it's different. That's right.
That's an actual resolution.
I think.
Which resolution you on? 14 or 15?
We're on resolution.
We're on 14.
We're on 14.
Okay, I can see now why
So we're extremely happy that you came.
Somebody's got to check these.
That's good.
There's a lot of numbers.
Just as.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I still have, I have a motion and second discussion. We have confirmed the number. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, any opposed in the room? Any opposed remote? Any abstentions in the room? Any abstentions remote? So carried. Thank you. Item G, UCTC Resolution 2022-15, distribution of federal fiscal year 2022 Federal Transit Administration, Section 5339, small urbanized area apportionments attributable to the Kingston urbanized area. Do I have a motion for discussion purposes?
So moved. Second, Mike Baden.
Do I have a motion from Mr. Morrow and a second from Mr. Baden? Ryan, the number? Some trepidation?
Yeah, $369,677.
Thank you so much. Any discussion in the room? Any discussion remote? Any opposed in the room? Any opposed remote? Any abstentions in the room? Any abstentions remote? So carried. Thank you. Item H, UCTC Resolution 2022-16, amendment to the UCTC Federal Fiscal Year 2020-2024 Transportation Improvement Program, TIP, to add new Ulster County PIN number 876289, as shown in attachment 1. Do I have a motion for discussion purposes? Mr. Faulkner,
Second, Mike Baden.
Mr. Baden, Brian.
Certainly. A few items of note regarding this resolution. Additions or deletions from the UCTC tip require a full resolution along a 15-day public comment period. We did not receive any public comments to the public notice. During the August technical committee meeting, the original resolution indicated that this would be an amendment to the new 2023 Transportation Improvement Program. Our thought being at the time, we would wait for that program to be approved statewide, and then we would make the amendment. But after consultation with the New York State Department of Transportation, we thought it would be most prudent to actually amend the current tip, as the new tip will not be approved for some time, likely October or November. So it's probably makes the most amount of sense to amend the existing tip. Once the new tip is approved, all projects with funds in obligation years 23 forward will automatically be rolled into the new tip. So this project will automatically be added to the new tip. Then we'll reprint a new iteration and put online. Regarding the details of the project, this was a project submitted by the Ulster County Planning Department to the Federal Transportation Alternatives Program. The proposed project will construct a trail on the former UND Railroad right-of-way from Gallinkirchy Road, which is essentially the entrance to the Bel Air ski area, down to the Bel Air day use area. That's a 2.5-mile linear path. And the construction material at this point in time is proposed to be a stone dust surface.
Thank you, Brian. Any discussion in the room?
Oh, yeah. So that revision will be made. Noted. Thank you, Amy. The federal
Explain that
fiscal
revision,
year,
just so everybody.
Yeah.
can hear you, Brian. Thank you.
the federal fiscal year cited in the title to the resolution is referencing the wrong tip, the former tip that we had. It's the 2023 tip. The proper iteration is the 2020 to 2024 transportation relief.
Okay, so just the resolution from.
So
The header.
that's just in the header. Yeah, in the body of the resolution, I got the right one.
Okay, thank you.
Good catch.
Yeah, thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy. Any additional comments in the room? Any additional discussion remote? Any opposed in the room? Any opposed remote? Any abstentions in the room? Any abstentions remote? So carried. Thank you. And that concludes our new business discussion on the old business, item number 6 on the agenda, other old business, FHWA carbon reduction program. Brian?
Yeah, I should note that we, MPOs statewide and nationally have received allocations for the new federal carbon reduction program. The complete rules for that program have not been rolled out through Federal Register at this point in time, but MPOs have been told that we can begin spending the funds, although this MPO does not at this point in time have any projects in mind for the funds. The funds are roughly $200,000 per year for the 5-year program. So it's just short of about $1 million in federal funds. And it's a required 20% local match, if I'm not mistaken. So the carbon reduction program is for transportation projects that can reduce carbon emissions from the transportation system. There's a wide variety of eligible projects, including, we've been told, projects that are eligible for the Transportation Alternatives Program may very well be eligible for the carbon reduction program. Other types of projects would be EV charging facilities and support facilities of that nature, and also planning projects as well. So this is something that I think we'll be discussing as a transportation management area with Dutchess County, Orange County, to see what types of projects those MPOs have in mind. And because it's a relatively small amount of money, keeping in mind that a battery electric bus can cost upwards of $800,000. $1 million over 5 years is not going to take us significantly far. It may make more sense if we pool our funds with the other MPOs in the region and look at a regional approach. Those discussions have yet to. Those are just thoughts we have in mind at this point in time. I should note that once the program requires states to prepare a carbon reduction plan. That plan is not yet started, but it should be done within the next 18 months. That will be written by New York State DOT. Once that plan is passed and in effect, the funding must be used in accordance with that reduction, with that carbon reduction. This time, though, we can spend it as long as we adhere to the requirements of the Federal Register.
Any questions or comments from council members in the room? Any questions or comments from council members on the phone? Anything else, Brian?
Not on that program.
Okay, item 2, FHWA, HSIP and safe, excuse me, and Safe Streets for All program. Right?
Sure.
Dave?
Deadline for applications passed on September 15th or 16th. We were not intending to apply simply because of our local road safety plan was missing some of the components that are required for implementation funding. We are intending to supplement the local road safety plan with additional components that will allow us to be eligible for implementation funding come the next round of funding. Planning funds were available as part of the application, but the match was 80-20. Whereas if we use Unified Planning Work Program funds, it's a 95-5 match essentially. So we're opting to use UP funds for that.
What exactly is it? Okay.
So the Safe Streets for All program provides a funding source for the state is not eligible for it. So it's locals that are eligible, and it provides funding for comprehensive safety planning and implementation of that plan. So there's planning funds that are available and then implementation. In order to have implementation projects done, you need to have a comprehensive local safety plan completed that includes certain components. We meet most of the components, but there's a couple key areas specifically around prioritization and implementation schedule that we're missing. So we're hoping to develop that through UPWP project to make ourselves in a better place for an application for implementation going forward.
Yeah, I should note that the crash study that the Ulster County Transportation Council did, David was the project manager, was one of the first of its kind in New York State, so we are essentially ahead of the curve. The Safe Streets for All program was then, came into effect in November 2021. So we didn't realize what the requirements would be when we did our crash study, essentially at that time, since we are ahead of that schedule.
So does it have to be, does the Safe Streets have to be countywide?
Well, as part of the application, one of the things that you need for an implementation project, you need to have a comprehensive plan that essentially our local road safety plan would do. And it looks at the network screening approach to prioritize those locations. And
We couldn't do one, for example, on a neighborhood basis.
you could. So what we're hoping to do is the local road safety plan, we're taking a look at all roads, not just county roads. We're taking a look at every municipality. And with that, so if a local municipality wanted to apply, they could reference our local road safety plan rather than having to go out and duplicate the effort. To identify their own local priorities.
The nervous part about this is prioritization of implementation,
Yes,
which basically says that now that you prioritize, you indicated you're going to implement, what happens if you don't? It's a liability.
and that's the discussion that's happening at the statewide level with these plans and doing network screenings at the level that we did.
Whereas if you shrink it down, make it neighborhood based, then you have a much more opportunity, better opportunity to implement it within the neighborhood. Okay, all right. We'll discuss.
Yep.
Any questions from the council members in the room? Any questions from the council members on the phone? Or remote? Hearing none, Brian, reconnecting communities opportunity, or is that David as well?
No, I'll take that one. The Reconnecting Communities Opportunity is yet another new program in the federal bipartisan infrastructure law. The purpose of this program is to address harms that may have been inflicted on communities by the transportation system in previous years. Primarily, good examples include the impacts of the interstate system on inner city. In many cases, in some cases at least, the construction of those facilities bisected neighborhoods and had many negative impacts. So the intent is to try to provide relief to those communities in instances where the transportation system may have inflicted some harm. The deadline for this opportunity is still is approaching. I believe it's October 13th or thereabouts. There's still 2 to 3 weeks to apply. This is there are 2 additional points on the opportunity. There is a planning program as part of this opportunity, as well as a construction implementation program. So you can apply to actually build something, or you can apply to plan for something. I have not looked into the program opportunity in great detail, but typically, anytime you apply for federal funds for a construction project, you really have to have your ducks in a row and have to make sure you essentially are, for lack of a better word, shovel ready, or at least have your preliminary engineering and planning done. So you have accurate cost estimates. So we've gotten some potential ideas from particularly the city of Kingston has raised opportunities to address impacts of CSX West Shore Railroad and how that is bisected the city of Kingston, particularly for pedestrian traffic crossing, as well as other smaller facilities. I think the intent of the program is for larger interstate systems, but if you look at the city of Kingston, Route 32, Route 9W, those have had impacts on the transportation system in Kingston as well, particularly for crossing. So the city is thinking about opportunities, and I would encourage other municipalities to think as well. If there may be opportunities within their communities. This is, again, this is the first year of the program in a 5-year bill. So there will be other, if you can't get an application together by October 13th, but you have something in mind, there will be other calls for projects later on through the.
There is funding for studies.
That's correct. like David mentioned, though, it's great to see that, the federal bill is providing planning funds for studies, but it's 20% match. And it would be the local municipality would be responsible for that 20% match. In just a moment, I may as well make the announcement now. We annually do a call for planning project proposals through our Unified Planning Work Program. We put that call out typically every October, and municipalities can apply to utilize our planning funds to do a transportation planning project. I think I'll plan for a full presentation on that call for projects at the October technical committee meeting. There's typically no local match required. The local match is absorbed by Ulster County. And the share is a much better deal. It's 95% federal reimbursement, 5% local.
And that would put our ducks in a row if we had a.
Yes, if there's a planning project in mind, you could apply through the UPWP. I mean,
Yeah, the short answer is yes. The difficulty is you're fighting, from a priority perspective, you're fighting a lot of competition. The example I would give you would be the one-way pairs of the city of Dixie, which are, if you're gonna reconnect communities, that's a great place to start. Those things literally take the center of the city, you can't get to it, the inner city, yeah. So those are the types of things.
Yeah, statewide, other cities, City of Buffalo, Rochester, Albany, Syracuse, will all be applying for these funds as well.
But the study funds, the county. If they decided to do the study, they would fund it.
That's right. To look at alternatives, look at right-of-way issues that may exist, and really do a lot of the preliminary planning and assessments that would try to tee up a successful. That would be the purpose of the plan.
So if we're having study projects with address it to them.
Yes, and we have not opened our call for,
But I'll add to you saying that.
well,
Competition in that, but it's
Yeah.
yes, the Rochester fee is 20-year thing.
yeah, and I mean, the other issue here, if it's around the subject, the pros and cons of going after federal funds for planning through the program. The town would have the autonomy and control the project, the planning project. If you go through the Transportation Council is the project manager, which is a benefit, I think, to our municipalities, because you don't have to deal with the procurement process. But you also have to essentially get in line. We have a number of planning projects that are already queued up for the next fiscal year, so the timeline might not line up. So there's a lot of pros and cons to consider. We'll try to outline those at the October technical committee meeting.
Anything else, Brian?
No,
Anything else from the council members in the room?
Brian, what's the approximate total dollar amount available this year for that?
for the Unified Planning Work Program, I don't have the document in front of me, but we have a significant savings backlog somewhere in the vicinity of $300,000. We will receive an additional grant this year, and it's the FHWAPL funds, which is roughly $300,000. So we have a number of studies that are ongoing, which we'll get to in just a moment. But we are in a good position to fund our planning project. Thank you.
Anything else from anybody in the room? Anything else from anybody on remote? No? Okay. National Electrical Vehicle Infrastructure NEVI program.
Yeah, I'd just like to point your attention to that program. There are, New York State DOT gave a presentation over the summer. And if you follow the link through the digital version of the agenda, you can find that presentation. And it's addressing the requirements of the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, which will require Department of Transportations across the country to essentially establish vehicle charging facilities within every 50 miles on the national highway system.
And it's 1 mile off. You can be as much as 1 mile off the interstate.
I
or off the-
believe so.
off the
I
national
believe
highway
so.
system, yeah.
Yeah, and there are other requirements outlined.
Yeah, we're aware of the fact that UCAT is looking at this. Okay, any questions on that? Any questions on remote? On that? Okay. Nice, that traffic safety board, Brian?
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's not a NISDOT issue. That's a misprint. It's the traffic safety board is scheduled for October 3rd, Monday, 6 p.m. Legislative chambers. We will have, I don't know if it'll be a full agenda, but there'll be plenty of things to talk about, including
When's this scheduled?
Monday evening, October 3rd, 6 p.m. One of the topics that our members have requested that we discuss is legislation, local legislation addressing electric bicycles and scooters and what municipalities can or should do to regulate them. It's an open item for discussion.
Thank you. Any questions?
On that item, that's an item that the Trails Committee has been talking about for the last 2 months, and actually a request came from at the last meeting from the Parks Manager for the walkway over the Hudson. They're experiencing significant issues with the motorized vehicles on the walkway, so it's a discussion we've been having and trying to come up with a systematic idea. So it's timely that you're talking about.
Thank you. Project updates, Brian?
Sure, we can give a few project updates in the last few minutes. There's one in particular that I want to draw your attention to, and that is the Ulster County Transportation Vulnerability Assessment Project. This has been an ongoing project. Supervisor Baden has been sitting on the Technical Advisory Committee, although we haven't met in some time. We do plan on reconvening that Technical Advisory Committee soon. We have, as we've indicated at this table several times before, the Transportation Council and staff decided some time ago that we would begin to transition the project platform from a typical printed report platform using a PDF report that was typically several inches thick, and try to focus more on digital reports and reporting the outcomes of our studies and the iterative process of those studies using a platform called ArcGIS Hub. And that's what David has projected for you on screen now. I've been clawing my way up the learning curve, trying to figure out how to use ArcGIS Hub. I was at one point a proficient user of GIS after graduate school, but ever since coming to the Transportation Council, David is an expert at GIS. I usually rely on him to do a lot of my online mapping, so I got rusty. But so there's a lot to learn, and there has been a little bit of a delay for us to roll out this this website. It's essentially what all it is. It's a website. But we intend to use this website, this framework, for all of our reports going forward. As you can see, this is actually the administrator view. So
right.
Yeah, the menu on the left. When a member of the public logs on to this website, they wouldn't see that menu on the left. So it's a little bit constrained. But this is what's called a story map. And all it is an interactive website that talks about the basically the iterative steps and results of our study. As you scroll down, it works very much like a PowerPoint presentation and shows you about map results, and it has interactive mapping ability as well. You keep going down a bit, or just trying to get a little quirky. This is the Transportation Council and the Department of the Environment are the first two departments to use. Actually, our emergency management office, I think, might be using it as well. So we're still working through some of the kinks, but there were some good maps under the criticality.
Yeah,
determination
going
where they're
into
not
this one.
projecting.
There we go. Right.
So
Maybe, yeah, this one's got the charts. So.
this website is not yet live and open to the public, but as we finalize things, which I hope to finalize at least the first several pages this week, will be able to publicize it and issue essentially a soft press release or something, let the public know that this information is now available. The project itself, Ulster County Transportation Vulnerability Assessment, is essentially looking at transportation infrastructure and how it may be vulnerable to both natural and man-made hazards. We went through a criticality determination and now also a hazard assessment and determined that the primary hazards within Ulster County are flooding and heat exposure. We looked at planning horizon years in 2030 and 2050. And then if you factor in the impact of climate change on the transportation system, flooding and impacts from heat appear to be the most significant. And based on those impacts, we began to assess what specific facilities would be most at risk. So we start to begin to identify bridges that might be within the floodplain, highways that might be subjected to impacts from excessive heat, and also bridges that might be susceptible to impacts from excessive heat. So what we hope this product and project will provide us is a good guidance for essentially determining potential projects for the future transportation improvement program. If we have facilities that are highlighted on this through this assessment that may be susceptible or vulnerable to flooding, that would essentially provide some justification for additional funding through the federal aid process. We looked at all facilities, county, state, and local, through the assessment, all bridges rather, county, state, and local. And highway facilities, we looked at the national highway system. And I think we looked at all federal aid eligible roads, which goes beyond the national highway system. So it's something to, once we're ready to roll it out, I look forward to going into a more in-depth presentation. We've been talking about story maps for some time, so I wanted to let everyone know that we're making good progress in rolling out the story map framework. Our next project that we'll be embarking on is a Route 9W corridor study. We'll be using the ArcGIS framework as well.
And we've had the kickoff meeting for that, and we're in the process of gathering data.
That's right.
So any other project updates? I have one. You don't. So we have issued a notice of intent to award with respect to the Kingston, City of Kingston rail safety gap study. So we're wandering through, not wandering, but we're going through the contract, although sometimes it does feel like going through the contract process right now. There is a resolution in front of the legislature to fund that study. We hope to be able to get going, I would say, probably the first week of November or so, with respect to that study. And that study basically looks at the major crossings of the railroad crossings in the city of Kingston, as well as the land use adjacent to the tracks, and then attempts to take a look at how we can reduce some of those areas of trespass and some of the crashes and fatalities that occur in those locations. So that should be going. It's about a 12-month study. So we hopefully we finish up by early next week.
Then we have two other smaller projects. They will be consultant-based contracts that we're working on rolling out. One is for a full update to the UCTC webpage. That'll be a roughly $30,000 contract. And I'm about to solicit bids any day now. And also we are due for an update to our coordinated human services transportation plan. I'm fairly happy with our existing plan, so I think this is a minor update that would involve essentially some survey and outreach work to our human service transportation providers. Those are organizations like RUPCO, ARC, Gateway, other types of organizations, and of course UCAT, to get their input on what the service gaps are, what their client needs are, and update the human services plan. plan is a requirement to receive section 5310 FTA. Those are two projects that I would like to get under contract before the end of the calendar year. And then finally, we are working on to our long-range transportation plan. I hope to have an update to council members in October.
I mean, that's on fiscal response, fiscal constraint and fiscal projections is what that is.
That's right.
What that.
System level project costs for as part of the long range transportation fund. We'll have a great amount of detail for everyone at our next meeting.
Thank you, Brian. Anything else, Brian?
We did get one comment in from Harriet Lewis, just asking about I think the resiliency project. Just for those of us with less computer skills, we'll be able to generate PDF from the site or reports.
Yeah, thank you. Great question, Harriet. As users visit the website and are able to scroll through the pages, there are links to our traditional PDF documents that are essentially, when we do the typical approach to doing a UCTC report is we have technical memoranda that go through the iterative task 1, task 2, task 3, so you get the final project recommendation. So yes, we will have those links embedded so that someone can download the PDF and then print out the report if that's the way they're comfortable reviewing it.
Anything else, Brian? Dave, anything else?
As I mentioned, we'll do a presentation of the UPWP call for projects at the October meeting. We do have agenda items in addition for that meeting scheduled for October 25th.
Thing would be is if we wanted to talk about HSIP at all, or yeah, okay.
I have one item I want to bring up, and it has to do with, you remember the 2020 census? The 2020 census is used for reapportionment. It's also used for very critical things that have to do with urbanized areas. And so we would anticipate the census has changed some of the definitions of how urbanized areas are measured and counted. And those changes may impact the size of the urbanized area that is now the city of Kingston. The city of Kingston currently has somewhere in the neighborhood of about 57,000 people. And it extends into Saugerties, and it extends up to Woodstock, and it extends down to Rosendale and then around the area of Kingston. Some of those extensions may not be allowed under the new definitions with respect to the census. If we fall below 50,000, there is no need for an MPO to exist in Ulster County. So we anticipate that announcement to come sometime in October, if not into November. And then there is hopefully within the legislation the whole harmless clause that should we fall below, an MPO would not be disbanded. But we are looking at taking a hard look when that census data comes out. So it's very critical. It also, quite frankly, impacts the distribution of funding for transit. The Kingston is an urbanized area. It receives a formula application. If the city falls below the urbanized area formula application requirements, it may also affect transit funding as well. So just be aware of the fact that we're very concerned that when those census numbers come out, we establish those urbanized areas. The contrary is that in the southern half of the county, where Poughkeepsie and the Mid-Hudson urbanized area, what we call the TMA around this table, that may likely expand. So the Plattekill area, Marlborough area, the Lloyd area, and New Paltz area, which is part of the Poughkeepsie or the Mid-Hudson TMA, that area may actually expand. So that's kind of where we're at right now, but be aware that staff is watching it, and executives are watching it relative to those numbers coming out. We did get a notice that they were expected out sometime
End of fall.
End of fall, October, November. That's when we're expecting it. That also, quite frankly, influences other funding for the city as well. The city does get other funding, not based on its urbanized statute, but that goes directly to the city. So I'm sure the city is watching this as well.
Is that only based on the actual census numbers, or is that something that's revisited on the approximated every 5 years?
No, it's based on the actual census numbers. And so what you're looking at is hopefully legislatively that if you fall below the whole harmless clause in the next transportation bill. But there are other numbers that are much more difficult to fix, particularly with respect to the transit dollars and then relative to some of the federal funding that the city receives on the basis of its urbanized status. Okay.
Looks like Cheryl has her hand raised, yeah.
Thank you. I have a somewhat intersectional observation about the census numbers and its impact on Ulster County. I've worked the US Census 2009 through 2020. I worked at least 9 operations, some of them QA operations, some of them as crew leader. So I've had a real clear observation from the ground all over multiple counties, mostly Ulster, and in all the corners. Unintended consequences, not just for our area, and now I'm learning about the MPO, but I saw this for the state because you understand we were 89 people short to maintain our congressional representation. In that summer of 2020, there was a joint operation in Kingston, New York, between the state police, Ulster County Sheriff's Department, and KPD. It was a stop and frisk operation. I, as a census worker on the ground, knocking doors, can tell you that it had a horrible impact on people opening their doors, willing to participate. We missed so many children because if an adult didn't open the door, we missed counting all the children who were born. We had massive numbers of what they call in movers who came in between the sense they moved in after April 2020 from the city, and they had done their censuses already. So they didn't count here in Ulster County, but mostly in the urban area which picked up most people, there was a chill on anybody knocking on your door with a badge and a computer and or a device. So I just want to put that out there because sometimes we make decisions and we have programs and we don't look at the unintended consequences.
Thank you, Cheryl. I would say that the MPO, I think it was about 2 years ago, did write a letter relative to the census decisions on how to count what is known as hop, skips, and jumps, in terms of making sure that they would try to reestablish their old methodology, which allowed for a much more lenient way to connect urbanized areas together. We made the case, particularly with respect between Kingston and Saugerties, that it acts as one urbanized area, and the reason there's not a lot of population density between it is the difficulty in terms of the development difficulty in those areas. So with that, any additional comments from the council members?
See, Paul has his hand raised as well. You have any comments?
Yeah, I actually have a question. Supervisor Hauk asked me to see if we could get an update on the status. I guess there's a sidewalk project for Kerhonkson. And he just wanted to see if we could get an update as to progress on that sidewalk project.
Yes, we're going to go into a special session at the conclusion of this meeting, Paul, and I believe your project consultant is here with us today, and we'll get.
Yes.
All right, so why don't we see if we can finish this meeting up? Anything else? Any motion to adjourn? Thank you. I have a motion for Mr. Moran. I have a second for Mr. Walk. I have a motion and second. Anybody opposed? Hearing none. All right, we're going to move into a discussion with respect to individual tip projects. Thank you very much for coming, everyone.
Take care, everybody. Be healthy, stay safe.
The Zoom link will remain active and we'll go through project updates. Where do you want to start then?
Do you want me to stop
Let's,
recording?
you can please, stop recording. Those of you here